Hey there, my name is Chelsea Seaburn. Welcome to The Smart Student. I'm happy you're here because today's video is going to be a full in-depth tutorial on the most current version of APA formatting, which is APA 7th edition. But more specifically, what I want to do is I want to walk you through how to set up your title page. We're going to talk about how to format your main body, including how to use section headings. We're going to talk about how to format your reference list. And then lastly, I want to go over some basic APA grammar guidelines for you to follow. Now, this video is timestamped, so if you don't want to sit through all of that, that's quite all right. But please use those to navigate to the part of the video you need. And lastly, this is a tutorial for APA formatting for student papers. If you're wondering if you're writing a student paper or not, all you need to know is that if your paper is not up for publication, then yes, you're probably writing a student paper, and yes, you're in the right place. So with that in mind, come with me. All right, friends. First things first, in case you haven't heard the news, an abstract and a running head is no longer required for student papers. However, please know that your professors still can and sometimes do ask for them. So if that's the case, please know that I'm going to show you how to format both of those, but I'm going to do it at the end of the video. But with that out of the way, what do you say we go ahead and dive in? Alright guys, so here we are. The first thing you want to do is pull up a blank document, either Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Just so you know, I'm going to be using Microsoft Word on a MacBook computer for this demonstration. Oh, by the way, I've created this downloadable template for what I'm about to cover so that you have something to reference later on. You can find a link to this in the description below. But anyways, the first thing you want to do is set up the general formatting for your document. And the first thing here is to make sure that you have 1-inch margins around the borders of your paper. The nice thing is that this is actually the default setting for both Microsoft Word and Google Docs, but in case you wanted to check, the way you would do this is you would come up here to the toolbar, select Layout, select the Margins drop-down, and as you can see, Normal is what's already checked, ensuring that there's 1-inch margins around the entire document. Now to go back, you'd select the Home tab, where we'll move on to the next step. Great! Now the next thing you want to do is set the font size and type for your entire document. Under APA 7th edition, there's actually no predetermined font specified, so long as your font is legible and consistent throughout your entire document. Now as a rule of thumb, sans serif or serif fonts are always a safe choice, and those are going to include things like 11-point Calibri, 11-point Arial, 12-point Times New Roman, or maybe 11-point Georgia. I personally like Times New Roman size 12 because it's a fairly universally accepted font size and type. But once you're finished selecting your font, the next thing you're going to do is format your document in double space formatting. The easiest way to do this is to come up here to the toolbar, select the line spacing options, and change it to 2.0. Now, one thing to note is that you want to come back up here, select this drop down one more time, and select the line spacing options. Because from here, you want to make sure that the box that says don't add space between paragraphs of the same style is checked, because if you don't check this box, both Microsoft and Google Docs have a default setting that automatically adds an additional space when you hit enter and begin a new paragraph. That extra space goes against APA standards for double spacing, which is why you want to check that box. Great! Now the last thing you want to do for general formatting is to set your page numbers. Now there's a few ways you can do this, but I find that the easiest is to come up here to the header ribbon, double click anywhere inside of it, and then it brings up the layout options. From here, you're going to select the page number drop-down menu, select page number, and then you want to make sure that the alignment is on the right, which you see it is here. So I'm going to select OK, and then notice how the number 1 pops up in the right hand side of my page. Now, one thing to be aware of is that the font used for this number 1 may not match the rest of my document, so I recommend going back to the Home tab, and as you can see, Calibri is what the default font was. So to fix this, I'm going to highlight the number 1, change this to Times New Roman, and then the easiest way to come out of the header is simply to click anywhere on your page, and just like that, your page numbers are good to go. All right, so now that we have the basic formatting set up, I'm gonna go ahead and start walking you through how to set up your title page. But I wanna let you know what I'm doing so you understand it. On the left-hand side of the screen, I'm going to have a template of what your title page should look like. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to be walking you through a real example so you can see the APA formatting principles in action. All right, let's do this. Like I said, the template is going to be on the left-hand side of the screen while I demonstrate a real example on the right-hand side. But let's go ahead and start our title page. So the first thing you want to do is hit enter roughly 4 to 5 times like this. Now, on this first line, we're going to go ahead and type out our title. The first thing you want to do here is center your text by coming up to the toolbar and selecting the centering icon. Once it is centered, you then want to bold your text as well. The shortcut for bold is Control-B on a PC or Command-B on a MacBook. You can also come up to the toolbar and bold it manually by selecting the B like this. Now that our text is centered and bolded, you're going to go ahead and type out your title, which should be typed out in title case, meaning that all major words should be capitalized except for the smaller words, aka prepositions, and those are words like and, a, as, the, or with. That being said, if the preposition is located at the beginning of the title, then you'd go ahead and capitalize it. A few other things to note about the title is that you should not abbreviate any words, and your title should not exceed more than 50 characters. Now, let's say that your title is fairly long or it contains a subtitle, then you would continue your title on the second line, like you see I'm demonstrating it here. As a rule of thumb, a good title should be a clear, concise description of what your paper is about. So as you see in this example, this title contains keywords that are related to the main topics discussed in this paper. But after you're finished typing out your title, you're going to hit enter twice, leaving a gap line between your title and the next line. On this first line, you're going to type out your full name. But before you do that, you want to unbold your text by again either hitting Command-B on your keyboard or clicking the B from the toolbar. Next, go ahead and type out your full name like this. Now let's say if you're working with a co-author, you would separate your names with the word and like this. And if you are working with multiple authors, you would simply separate the names with a comma and separate the last two with the word and as well. But for the sake of this example, we'll say that we only have one author. From here, you're going to hit enter once and then type your affiliation. Your affiliation line should include your department of study, followed by a comma, and then the university you're affiliated with. Next, you'll hit enter again and then type out your course information. This line should be typed out as your course number or code, followed by the full name of your course. You'll want to make sure you match your code to how your university has it listed. If you'll notice, the course code and the course name is separated by a colon. Once again, you'll hit enter, where now you're going to type out your professor's name. As a rule of thumb, you should always check your coursework or ask your professor to ensure that you're using the correct title for your professor's name element in your papers. You see, some professors go by doctor, some go by PhD, so you'll want to clarify this. From here, you'll hit enter once more and then type out your assignment due date. This should be included in a month, day, year formatting like you see it is here. That was the last element on your title page, so congratulations, you're done here. But I do have a pro tip for you, and that is to insert a page break. I recommend inserting a page break rather than just hitting enter until you reach the next page. This way, your title page formatting will stay as is as you type out the rest of your document. To do this, simply come up to the toolbar, select Insert, and select Page Break. This will bring you to the top of the next blank page. Now, since student papers no longer require an abstract, this is where the main body of your text will begin. To start this, you're going to repeat your title of your paper as the first section heading of your paper. I recommend copying and pasting your title from your title page so the formatting remains consistent, meaning that it stays centered, bolded, and uses title case. By the way, if your title contains a subtitle, please note that the main title is all you need to include as the first heading like this. Something else I'd like to note here is that the title and the first line of your paper signifies your introduction. Therefore, the word introduction no longer needs to be written out as a section heading. However, you can still write out the word conclusion at the end of your paper to signify your conclusion, but again, no more writing out the word introduction. After you've pasted your title on the first line, you then want to align your text flush left to start your first paragraph. As a reminder, each paragraph in your body should be indented. You indent by simply hitting the Tab key on your keyboard. As I already said, your entire document should follow double spacing. I'm repeating this again as a reminder that you'll want to avoid adding in any additional spaces throughout your entire document. The next thing I want to talk about are section headings. So section headings are so important because they help organize your paper, they keep you on track, they ensure that you answer exactly what's being asked of you, and they help your professor identify each section as they read them. Just so you know, this will be a brief overview of section headings. If you'd like to watch the full tutorial, be sure to check out this video over here. So, just like your paper title, section headings should be descriptive but concise. And the amount of section headings that are necessary will depend on the length and complexity of your paper. I can't necessarily tell you how many that's going to be. But under APA 7th edition, there are 5 different levels of section headings. And the way that the section headings work is that level 1 is the highest level that signifies the major sections in your paper. Level 2 section heading is the subsection of level 1. Level 3 would be the subsection of level 2, level 4 the subsection of 3, and so on. Now, when it comes to formatting, all section headings use title case, which again means that you capitalize all the major words. But let's go ahead and start with a level 1, which will begin on a brand new line. The first thing you want to do is center your text and bold it, and then go ahead and type out your heading. Moving on to a level 2, you're going to use the same formatting, except your text is going to be aligned flush left like you see it is here. After that, let's say you want to include a level 3 section heading. You're going to hit enter, and this time your formatting is going to remain the same, but you're going to italicize your font because that's going to help differentiate the level 3 from the level 2. But moving on to level 4 and level 5 section headings, I like to group them together because their formatting in a way mirrors the same formatting as level 2 and level 3. As you can see here, level 4 is bolded, but it's not italicized, while level 5 is bolded and italicized, just like level 2 and 3. The difference between 4 and 5 is that they begin indented inward, and if you'll notice, there's a period included after the last word in the heading. From there, the first sentence in the paragraph follows immediately after the section heading. Okay, so I went ahead and put some dummy text in my section headings so you can see what they would look like as if this were a real paper. I have a couple things I'd like to note before I move on. So while there are 5 levels of section headings, when you're writing student papers, most likely you will not go beyond a level 1, 2, or 3. You might make it to 4 or 5, but it's uncommon to do so. Also, please note that section headings should never be labeled with a number or a letter. In other words, you would not want to put number 1, the problem with body image, or number 2, pressure to post photos. That's considered unnecessary. And the last thing I want to point out, just to make sure you understand how section headings work, is this level 1, the problem with Instagram and body image, this is the main section of all of these sections. Level 2 is a subsection of this topic. Level 3 is a subsection of number 2's topic, and it repeats all the way down through level 5. If that makes sense? Alright friends, let's go ahead and move on to the last portion of your paper, which is formatting your reference list. One thing I want to note is that this tutorial is going to show you how to format your reference list. If you're interested in the full video on APA referencing, be sure to check out this video right here. Alright, so your reference list should begin on the next full blank page after the last paragraph in your text. Again, I recommend adding in a page break because it's going to keep your formatting consistent. The first thing you want to do after doing that is you want to type out the word references in bold text centered at the top of your paper like you see it is here. From here, you will hit enter one time and then align your text flush left. Your reference list should be listed in alphabetical order. And something to note is that if a reference starts with a number, say it's missing the author element, so you use the title which starts with a number, that number would come first in the alphabetical order list. When it comes to the formatting, your reference list should all follow a hanging indent format. And a hanging indent, also known as a second line indent, is exactly what it sounds like. The first line is positioned aligned flush left, while each preceding line is indented inward 1/2 inch. Let me show you my favorite way to set the hanging indent. So, let's say that these are the references that you want to use in your reference list. The easiest way to set the hanging indent, are you ready for this? Is that I recommend highlighting all of the text that you want to set with the hanging indent. You're going to use this indent icon from the ruler, which by the way, if you don't see your ruler, simply go to view and make sure that the ruler tab is checked. Ours is, so we're going to go back home. Again, we're going to come up here to this indent icon. We're going to grab the bottom portion of it and drag it inward 1/2 inch. And just like that, our hanging indent is set. Why we weren't taught things like this in high school, I don't know, but pretty cool trick, huh? But all right, guys, with our reference list complete, you should now have the 3 major sections in a student paper correctly formatted in APA formatting. You have the title page, you have your main body using section headings appropriately, and you have your reference list. Now what I'd like to do is go over some of those basic APA grammar guidelines that you should be aware of. So, starting with the first one, I'm actually going to bring this in a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. The first one is that you should always include 1 space after each period, no more, no less. The reason I'm including this, it's kind of common sense, but I'm including it because this also means that you should include no more than 1 space, which is far more common to add an extra space somewhere. So if you see any irregular gaps in your text, you want to be mindful of that. Now, moving on to the second item, and that is that the Oxford comma should be used when 3 or more items are listed. In other words, if you were to list out 3 items, you would include a comma after each item and before the word and before the last item, because this is going to show the reader that you're describing 3 distinct parts. Next, you want to make sure to use words to write out numbers that are fewer than 10, or if the number is starting a sentence. Let me show you 3 examples so you can see what I mean. Do you see how when the number is below 10, you're going to write it out using its word form? If it's 10 or above, you're going to use the numerical form. And if it's included at the beginning of the sentence, no matter what the value is, you're going to use words to write out the number. Now, something else to note about numbers is that if it's a common fraction, no matter what the value is, you're always going to use words to write it out. Lastly, you also want to use numerals for numbers that represent time, date, ages, or money, like this. Okay, great. So there are quite a few more grammar guidelines that you could follow, but I wanted to go over these because I find that they're the most common. Now what I'd like to do is take these last few minutes and show you how to format a running head in an abstract, just in case your professor asks you to include them. So first things first, let's start with the running head, and we're going to start with the title page because the running head on the title page is slightly different from the running head on the rest of your document. So just as you set the page number, you're going to come up here and double click in the header banner. As you can see, this brings up the header toolbar, and from here, we're going to go ahead and start by selecting this box that says different first page. Once you do that, you're going to come to the header drop down and select this first blank tab right here. For the running head on your title page, you always want to start by typing out the word running head like this, including 1 colon, and then you're going to type out a shortened version of your title in all caps like this. From here, you'll go to the page number dropdown, select page number, and again, you want to ensure that the alignment is on the right-hand side, just like this. Now, if you remember from when we first set the page number, there's a good chance that the default font is not the same as the rest of your document. As you can see, it's not again for here. So I'm going to make sure that Times New Roman is selected. Great. Now we're going to set the running head for the rest of your document, which is very simple. I recommend highlighting your shortened title, copy it, scroll down to your second page where you're going to paste it in the header ribbon. From here, go ahead and double click outside of the header ribbon, and then if you'll note, that shortened title is now included on the rest of your document, which is the proper way to set a running head. Okay, awesome. Now let me show you the abstract, which I've already copied and pasted in here for time purposes. But what you need to know is that if your professor asks you to include an abstract in your paper, it's going to start on the first page immediately after your title page. So again, you would insert a page break after you're finished with your title page, and it's going to bring you to the first blank document, which should be page number 2. To start your abstract, you're going to type out the word abstract in bold in the center of your page like you see it is here. And then your actual abstract, you're going to include as a long text in a block formatting. In other words, you're not going to indent the first line to signify it's a paragraph, because your text, again, should be included in a block text style like this. From here, when you're finished with your abstract, you would again insert a page break, which would bring you to page number 3, and this is where you would start the main body of your paper.
Now, that wasn't too bad, was it? In all seriousness, if you're still here right now, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. It's your guys' support of the Smart Student channel that allows me to keep doing this, so thank you. And if you want to become a part of the community, come check me out on Patreon, come check out the Facebook group, say hi on social. But in the meantime, thank you so much again. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe for more videos like this every week. Thanks, guys.